Sometime back in 2019, I got myself into a game called Aground. At first glance, it was like this tiny survival sandbox game that had a story to tell. Gameplay was pretty slow and cozy at the start, and in the first few minutes it felt like I was playing a game that was too shy to stand tall like the big boys. But as things got weirder and bigger and weirder, at the end I was really hoping the devs would keep making more games. 4 years later, and I bump up not only with the start page for Aground Zero, the second game in this series, I also realized that there's a perfectly good demo already out for the game. We start by creating a glorious bowl-cut explorer, and quickly realize that we're the survivors of a disaster that has befallen humanity. We're not sure what happened, but everything points to an alien invasion. As we come to our senses, we're met by our very own personal AI, called PAI, our very own guide and mascot. He clarifies we were asleep in a cryopod, but he was forced to wake us up early due to the end of the world. He tells us that the last signal he received was about an unknown threat bombarding the surface and causing a lot of destruction. That sounds too negative, and news like that could hurt our good vibes, so we'll completely ignore PAI for the time being. We can equip our laser drill by pressing 1 and press right click to turn on our flashlight. Holding left click will mine a block, which is pretty slow until we manage to get our dirty little hands on some upgrades. Immediately after mining in Aground, for some reason I'm met with some memories from Infiniminer, the game that was one of the core inspirations for Minecraft. Just a minute of mining and we end up finding a tiny cave section with some debris on it. Those are broken parts of an old bunker, which were underground homes that people used to live in before everything exploded. Disassembling this debris gives us some resources, and our personal AI mascot tells us that if we manage to find 5 of these bunker parts, he can reverse engineer a blueprint for us to build some shelter. We're getting ahead of ourselves though, since we're slowly running out of power and food. With some resources in hand, we are ready to start refining. We have an assembler in our hotbar, and we can use it to refine and craft some basic items. We get to work on making steel bars and gold wires, which are the 2 current building materials in the game. With that, we can start by building a generator. Those consume coal to make some power, but in order to retrieve that power to ourselves, we need batteries. I end up finding a couple more bunker pieces when doing mining to finish those building projects. Nice! We are running out of power though, so I run back to base for a quick charge up. After a bunch of mining, our power generation setup is complete. The next issue is to fix our food situation. We start working on our hydroponics chambers, and with just a little bit of editing magic, they are complete. Hydroponics just require power, and they will steadily bake us a bunch of tomatoes, which will serve as our main source of nutrition for a while. Of course, I completely forgot to provide power to the hydroponics, and we can do that by using cables. Machines will automatically connect and provide power to adjacent buildings, so we don't have to keep spreading cable everywhere. Now, one more step before we can focus on exploring and setting up the colony. We will build here a storehouse, which is probably one of my favorite blocks in a sandbox game yet. For now though, we will just use it as a simple storage chest, and we'll head out looking for bunker parts and survivors. After barely stepping away from the base, we immediately bump into another survivor, ominously sleeping inside a cryopod. Trying to interact with him, we are notified that it would be too cruel to wake him up without having a place for him to stay. So we really need to get going with those bunkers. Around those survivor pods, we can also find a battery, which we can take power from, and a chest with some items. We look out and find a block manipulator, which allows us to place blocks and lowers the chances of us getting a case of being stuck. We also found blueprints for manipulator upgrades. It's probably the last thing we will want to upgrade, but we'll take it. Some more digging later, we found not 1 but 2 survivors, along with the last bunker piece we need, all in the same cave. We also grabbed the blueprints for assembler upgrades. Bunkers take a lot of resources, so let's first get into some basic automation before we get to those. Getting back to base, we will find some resources and make some conveyors and splitters. The conveyors are actually networked and smart here, so they will only send items when a machine connected by the conveyors requests them. They also insert items into machines by themselves. So in just a minute here, we set it up so our storehouse chest sends coal to the generators when they need them, and so the hydroponic chambers send and store their produce on the storehouse. Conveyors also transmit power to buildings adjacent to them, so they are extremely useful. In order to smelt down the ore we've been mining, let's get a couple factories built. Those will automatically smelt all ore we drop in the storehouse and send back the steel bars and gold wires they produce. They work much faster than our personal assembler. In the end, we just conveyor them up with the storehouse. Our disgustingly compact basic automation is complete, so we can get on mining and dumping resources at base. With enough resources, we get to building our first bunker. Bunkers can actually house up to 4 survivors. They'll need food too, but by connecting our storehouse to the bunker, it will send food to the colonists as needed. Bunkers have a nice interior and a change mirror that allow you to customize your character if needed. Wasting no time, we go ahead and start our recruitment drive. We wake up the first colonist. He calls himself the Gunner, and it seems like he was very disappointed on losing a war he was too frozen to fight on. He asked us to build an electronics lab and a laser gun, so we can defend ourselves if need be. Gunner is an electronics specialist. We rush to the other 2 cryopods we know of, which were housing 2 other specialists, Sesame and Sandy. Sesame is a farming specialist who teaches us how to farm wheat and sugar in our hydroponics chambers. Sandy is a mining specialist, which provides us with the blueprints for making mining rigs, which are super important and useful. First order of business is going back to base with our new friends and opening up some space for our mining rigs. They cost some resources and use a bunch of power, but they are priceless. With them, we can set it to mine any mineral, but it requires 1 colonist working on it for each work. We set Sandy working on getting us some gold. We'll still need more resources to make more rigs. And as we hunt for those resources, we find 1 more colonist, Andromeda, another farming specialist. He tells us she learned how to make some sort of meat grow inside hydroponics chambers. We pretend that doesn't sound disgusting at all, and she gives us more crop recipes for the hydroponics. Back to base, and now we got 3 mining rigs filling up our storehouse with resources. This will cut back a lot on the time to make new buildings. We are now ready to comfortably get into the electronics lab. Here we can make upgrade ships, as well as tools. As Gunner wants us to make a laser gun, we do one of those first. We also have to assign Gunner as a worker here, and rearrange our conveyors so we get an input and an output connected to the lab. This will probably sound very heretic, but since the conveyor network is smart, we don't need a dedicated line of conveyors for each building. We can just connect up the closest lines to the new machines. Our laser gun is complete, and showing it to Gunner gets him to tell us all about it. It can fire shots, and it can also create a shield when holding the right mouse button. He also warns us that some alien creatures are armored, and firing on their soft spots is the only way to kill them. Once our first upgrade chip is complete, we get to learn all about it. By holding it in hand and pressing the right mouse button, we can upgrade one aspect of our spacesuit or of one of our tools. The first pick will definitely be the mining strength of the laser drill. This will enable us to mine blocks much faster, as well as enabling us to break stronger blocks and reach other areas of the underground. Excited with our progress, our AI friend tells us that there's a teleportal back on the old bunker where we came from. He mentions this portal could be our way out of here. Since we just fell down the caves from the old bunker, turns out our objective is just above our heads, so we need to craft some ladders to get ready for the trip. I'll also be using upgrade ships as they become available. For example, the second one goes into upgrading our inventory, and the third one goes into improving the mining drill energy efficiency. We're actually running low on power and coal, so I build a new generator and get ready to do some digging to hopefully find some uranium. Using ladders and cables, I can transfer power to the next floor of our base, and by placing a battery right next to the ladder, we can charge up right there in our mining area. Just like conveyors, ladders also transfer power. Unfortunately, after a bunch of mining, I only found a single piece of uranium. Uranium is awesome because you can just dump it into a generator and it will generate power for 100 minutes. Coal just lasts 100 seconds apiece, so this is quite an upgrade in fuel type. Doing a lot of mining in the granite area rewarded us with a bunch of minerals, including diamonds. Gunner couldn't make more upgrade ships since they use diamonds, which are rare on the sandstone layer we've been around until now. On the granite layer, they are quite common. We also brought some titanium back, which allows us to finally fix the cryopod sitting awkwardly in the middle of our base. Entering and closing the doors of the cryopod allows us to slowly heal, recover power, as well as stalling our hunger. The personal AI himself notes that this machine is a little senseless in the situation we are in, but I imagine this can be really useful for multiplayer servers in the future. Repairing the cryopod finally enables us to delete it. With many more tomatoes eaten, our power refilled, a couple more upgrades applied, and now our miners set to mining coal so our base stops shutting down every few minutes, we start the next and last leg of our journey. Moving up with the confidence of an infinity miner that would constantly fall off the map, we fiercely push ahead in the general area of the robotic smiley face. To my dismay, I can't dig up straight into our goal, so I made another staircase into the forsaken dark room of mystery. We ecologically clean up the area, recycling any debris we find, while encountering some spacesuit upgrade blueprints. Once we reach the teleportal, PAI tells us it's still functioning, and that we should see if we could connect to any other surviving teleportals. However, I don't turn on the portal yet, because it's being powered by a single old battery, So we go back to base to make some cables, nearly fall to our deaths, and rearrange our ladder so everything connects properly and power from our base reaches all the way up to the teleportal. We're now ready to go. The portal only has a single other possible destination, called the Professor's Lab. The portal activates, filling the room with a mesmerizing atmosphere of adventure. Going inside, we fight what could be the villain of this story, so we open fire immediately. Thwarting our plans, he revives right behind us, granting the developers some extra points for placing a cryopod in here for some reason. We try to leave the room through the door nearby, and this professor mentions that he locked the door out of this laboratory during the attack, because he didn't want to let anything dangerous in. He also does some ramblings about misplacing the keycard for the door, locking himself in. As we talk to this puzzling entity, however, PAI gives us the dreaded news that should explain why I'm acting so facetious right now. This is the end of the demo, and it's time for us to go. So this is it for the Aground Zero demo. Although I focus only on the main path the demo heads out to, there is still a bit more content packed on it than what I showed here. For example, there's a kitchen block that allows you to assign colonies to craft a bunch of food items like pizza, ice cream, or tomato sauce. There's flowing water, there's actually a spotlight block which I didn't find once during this run. There's 4 more survivors to recruit, for a total of 8, each of them unlocking some blueprint or some recipe, in a sweet little hardcore secret area with another secret inside of it that rewards you with a paint gun that can paint Cold War into blocks so you can have infinite fuel. It took me more time than I like to admit to find it, since I actually learned about it through some incoherent Steam forum posts. There's also a couple of mobs in the game which I managed to somehow completely dodge in this run. There's the bats that actually managed to startle me more than I'd like to admit, and worms that were also on the first game. The worms somehow managed to raise the hair on my arms every time I see one moving in the dark. Overall, Aground Zero is a very pleasant and rather cozy experience, and the developers are pretty nice. I wish them good luck and a successful launch when they are ready for it on the next year. As for you, I thank you for watching this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Bye bye. Oh wait, I almost forgot. Be angry.